All right, ladies, welcome to this special episode of the She is Extraordinary podcast. And I get to interview a relatively new friend, Cherie Rickard. She is the host of Real Girl Talk podcast. Hey, Cherie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am amazing. It is Thursday, April 15th, and I don't have to hand in my taxes. So I'm super excited about that today.
Yeah, that's nice. I did mine last week. Nothing like skidding into home plate, right?
Well, I'm really skidding because I'm taking advantage of the 30-day extra. But lady, Cherie is, if you haven't listened to the Real Girl Talk podcast, you've got to do that right after this one. All right. Cherie is real. And I met her through a friend. We were co-speakers at my friend's event, and I just fell in love. She is a hope advocate.
Aww.
She is an adversity recovery specialist, but that only begins to tell you about who Cherie is. She's a sales strategist. She's a medical professional. She's an author, and she's a speaker. So once again, Cherie, I'm so excited to chat with you. And for those who don't know, wonderful Cherie, would you give us just like a thumbnail sketch about your background and what led you to what you're doing right now?
Oh gosh. Somebody asked me that question the other day, what got you here? And all I could say is God, because I have no idea how I actually landed where I am. So, it's interesting because I've been in healthcare for over 25 years and I did bedside nursing, cared for my patients for many years, but for the last 15 plus years, I have been on the business end. So I have been in medical device sales as a sales leader, as a team leader. I've managed, you name it, I've done that in corporate America in the business end of medical sales. But I love it. I am passionate about that, but that is not my God-given purpose. And, you think you go into one thing and it leads to another and you think, how did I get here? And how did these things change? But when I look back on where I started and being that caregiver and someone that cared for strangers at the bed, I realized that I had taken some of that and brought that into where I am today. And it was all just kind of one chapter built on another chapter to tell this whole story. And that's what we all have. We have this one chapter and this next chapter until we get to the end of our story, which is ultimately our end of our story is the end of our life, and then somebody closes the book and they say, well, what was that book about? And then somebody can tell them all about your life. So I always tell people, what kind of chapters are you writing in your book? Your book of life, because it is at the end going to tell your entire story. And, it was back in 2007, I had landed my first big corporate job. I had worked at the bedside for, like I said, for many years in ICU, CV ICU, taking care of some really sick folks. And when I landed this corporate job, I had so excited. I thought, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm going to use all of my skill set and everything that I have in this job. And I was in California training for this amazing opportunity that I had received. And I was about the second day there and it was 2:00 in the morning and the phone rings. And when your phone rings at 2 a.m, it's never good news unless it's just a wrong number. Right. And then that means the bad news is for somebody else they meant to call. And, you're kind of half sleeping, half not. So I didn't answer it at first because I wasn't really sure it was ringing until it rang the second time. And I answered the phone and it was my husband. And I couldn't understand a word he was saying. I really couldn't understand it was my husband until I sat there for a minute because he was crying so heavily that I had no idea what was going on. But I knew immediately in my heart, obviously something horrible had happened. And all he said was Bryant. And in the pit of your stomach when somebody calls your child's name out and such pain and agony that he was in, it wasn't good. And it wasn't. What he told me was that Bryant had been killed in a car accident and I needed to get home. So here I was in a hotel room in California, 2,000 miles away. I was living in Louisiana. My son was in Memphis at the time, 17 years old, going into his senior year. And he was coming home one night trying to make curfew. And he had an accident, flipped his truck, and it killed him instantly. And, a lot of array of things go through your mind at that time. And it was just really survival mode to get to LAX and get on a plane. And then, you're in the airport and all of these crazy things that happened until I finally got to Memphis. And then what do? I spent the next 7 days preparing to say goodbye to my son. And then you come back home and it's time to grieve all over again because you said goodbye. And now I'm grieving that I said goodbye. So, you go through all those stages, and it got to the point, Judy, where, after it was about 6 or 7 weeks, close to 2 months of laying in bed and really just partaking in my drug of choice, which was M&Ms, because, it was M&Ms. It had it been alcohol, I could have been an alcoholic. If somebody had given me drugs, I could have easily turned into a drug addict. But people don't know what to do for you in that situation. And so I was served food. I was served food, and I ate food and developed actually today an emotional eating disorder to the things that had happened to me back then. And it's something that I still deal with. But, I did, my drug of choice was M&Ms. That's what I did. I ate M&Ms and cried. And I did that for weeks. And fortunately for me, I had, God had put me in a place where I had landed this corporate job, because had I been in the hospital, I would have just been unemployed. But I had landed this corporate job, and the company at the time was still a private organization. They had not gone public. And the owner called me and said, take all the time you need. And he paid me every single day I laid in bed and ate M&Ms. I mean, that just doesn't happen in real life. So it's, you look back and you think that everything was perfectly planned. So, after I laid there for a while, I had somebody pull a fast one on me and tell me, hey, Cherie, I know you're grieving, but you really need to come back to work. We really need you here. We've got problems at this hospital. You're the influencer. You're the resolution person. We really need you to come and help us. So, hear me being someone that is a caregiver and wants to help. I get up and I go to help that person. And in fact, they didn't need me at all. They were just trying to get me out of bed and get me to Alabama and get me on the road. And it was healing, because I spent that drive, talking to people, family members that I had not even talked to since the funeral, that, it'd been 7 weeks or so. And they were telling me things that I did and things that happened. And it's crazy. You think, well, where was I during all of this? Because you just down from all of that. But, that being said, it kind of snowballed from there. The same person that kind of tricked me to getting out of bed, the coworker, called me and he said, I really need you to help me. There's a mom that lost a child 2 nights ago. He was on a motorcycle and was killed. And I thought, are you crazy? I can't talk to this mother. What am I supposed to say to her? I'm just going to call her and we're just going to cry. And he said, no, I just need you to help her. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. So I did. And I will tell you, Judy, that was the first inkling of healing for me. It didn't come from a family member. It didn't come from anyone, but it came from me having the ability to talk to someone that felt my pain. There was no one, all these people are grieving over my son, right? He was 4.2, National Honor Society, voted most attractive of his senior class. I mean, just is an amazing kid, and everybody's grieving over him, thousands of people, but I'm the only mom. I'm the mom. I'm the one that gave birth to this child. So, I need people to understand I'm the most important person here in the grieving process, is what you want to tell people. Yeah. I'm queen of the grief, and this woman understood what I was saying. And so we immediately connected. But what I didn't realize is after I stayed on the phone with her for an hour, right before we hung up, she said, I just want you to know that yesterday I wanted to kill myself and I thought about it. And today I'm not going to do that. And I appreciate you calling me. And I thought, wow, I hung up the phone and I said, God, is that what you want me to do? Is this what you want me to do? You actually want me to help people that are hurting the worst possible pain they can possibly have in their life? No, thanks. I don't want this job. Give this to somebody else. It's too late. right? I mean, he had already given me this job. And one thing that I know, Judy, is that God never gives us anything that he has not already assigned us to do. He doesn't give us a pain that he hasn't already sketched the end result of that pain. He's already sketched that out. And here's the thing. I talk about this, my show that airs tomorrow. I think I told you, I can't remember the title. Do not let the past poison your future. And one of the things I talked about was one of my favorite little images and memes, I guess you would say, is, and you've probably seen it. It's Jesus is kneeling and he has a big teddy bear behind his back. And you know what I'm talking about? It's the little girl that's holding, and he really wants the little one because he's got the big one behind the back. But so many times we never want to give up all of our little teddy bears. We have all these little teddy bears, our little teddy bear job, our little teddy bear friendships, our little teddy bear, all our little dreams and a little teddy bear, when actually he has that big dream and that big bear right behind him, but we're so afraid to give that up. Bryant was my little teddy bear. I wasn't giving that up, but God said he was for 17 years. But I'm going to take him home because the ultimate goal of putting Bryant here was for me to give you something bigger that I need you to do for me. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us. It's not about the messenger. It's about the message. And so my message was for those that are hurting, calling me an adversity recovery specialist. Yes, I went back and I got my certification in grief and adversity and all of that, not to literally sit down and counsel someone, but to speak from a point of education and in connection with a point of experience. I went through many counselors after Bryant died, 4 to be exact. And I think the last one I had to watch my Christianity because I wanted to cuss her out. And I mean, just let's get real. She was trying to tell me what I needed to do to grieve my son. And here's this woman that's never given birth before in her life. I thought, you are not the person for this job, And so I knew that I had to be that person for that job, that person that's, I've buried a parent, I've buried a child. It's the worst pain that I can't. Is there anything worse? I don't know. Maybe for somebody that hasn't had children, they can tell you about the worst pain in their life. And I'm not taking anything from them. We all have pains and sorrows and struggles and setbacks and challenges and all these things in our life. But what I'm here to do is to help people understand, no matter what your adversity, whatever your adversity is, whatever your challenges are, God always has that teddy bear in the back of his back. Jesus is holding that teddy bear, but until you let go of the little one, until you let go of all that baggage, I call it our suitcase of negativity that we love to lug around, and we like to open it up every now and then and just reminisce about all the horrible crap in our life. Until we're willing to give that bag away and see what God has in store for us, we will continually to walk in misery. And let me tell you, this has not been an easy task. 2007, my son died, and here I am this year, July 12th, I have to relive that anniversary again, as I do every single year. And there are days that, I have to tell myself, I have to wake up in the morning and say, okay, God, take the wheel, because it's all in your plan. Because today I just am not feeling it. Today I'm hurting. Today that person just said the wrong thing to me. Oh, today that person offended me. Oh man, I didn't get that deal. I didn't get that project. I didn't get that contract. There's something to be disappointed about every single day. But, I started writing, Judy. And when I started writing, I wrote for 7 years. I journaled, but I ended up turning it into a book, Wake Up Call, A Mother's Grief Journey, released in April. Oh, wow. This is April. So it released in April of 2014, actually. I'm going to freak out if this is the day. What day is this? The 15th? Oh my gosh, it was yesterday. So the book released April 14th. Isn't that crazy? Of 2014, Wake Up Call, A Mother's Grief Journey. And when that came out, it was really something that I wanted to share with those that had hurt, but it was really kind of like a healing for me, because I had journaled for so many years, and I had followed the advice of some of my son's friends and turned that into a book. And from that, it ended up with the newspaper at my front door and people messaging me through Facebook. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew to the point to where now I'm 4 published books in. And I started my podcast just so I could reach people that I needed to reach, because doing Facebook Live every week with the whole hair and makeup just wasn't going to happen for me.
That's tough. Yeah.
And I did it. I did it. I said, you know what, if I can do this for 6 weeks, I'm good. Well, after 6 weeks, when you get messages, hey, where did Real Girl Talk Facebook go? I'm like, are you kidding me? You were really listening? And so it just kind of, it turned into Real Girl Talk podcast. And we can talk about that, but that's just kind of where I am today. But what's so interesting is, I talk about this tomorrow on my show. It didn't happen overnight. For the first year, I really wanted to give up. I just wasn't getting the downloads that I wanted. I wasn't reaching the audience that I wanted. But I didn't. I got up every day and I was like, oh, poor pitiful you, Cherie, you're not getting the downloads. I mean, seriously, there's starving people in other countries. Get over yourself. And I just started realizing that, if I felt led to do it, there was a purpose in doing it. And so I just stayed steady. I stayed steady and I tried to stay in faith. It wasn't easy, but I did. And it wasn't until last year, was probably about this time last year, I got my first paying ad spot. And I thought, well, that's cool. Somebody wants to advertise on my show. I had enough downloads to do ads. And I was like, well, that's cool. But then it snowballed. And it was like, now I've got ads from Hilton, Green Chef, HelloFresh, ModCloth. I'm doing an ad for Storyworth. I mean, there's all of these ad sponsors coming from that. And what's cool is the more ads that have come, the more amazing guests. And now I have agents calling me and I'm being pitched every day. And, it's just kind of grown from there. But let me tell you, that's not how it started. I could have easily quit a long time ago.
I would love to talk about that for a bit. First, I want to say, sure. And I think I'm recording this so that we're next to each other. You saw me break down.
Yeah.
I have 3 boys and I can't imagine your pain. So I am so sorry. I just can't even imagine. But So you're so strong. I just so admire you. And you know what I love most about you, Cherie, is that you're a woman of the Lord Jesus Christ and you're real. Like, there's no makeup stuff. Like, you are a real woman. Yeah. That's why I so relate to you. And
I tell you know what? I drink a little bit of wine. I drink a little bit of wine, a little bit of champagne, but I love Jesus a lot. And every now and then the sailor in me may slip out, but that's just real. I'm not perfect. I'm not Jesus. I know we're supposed to walk in the light and be a light, and we're supposed to set the best example forward. And I do try to do that every single day. But at the end of the day, Cherie's just Cherie. And I'm not going to not everyone's going to agree with me. Not everyone's going to like me. Not everyone's going to like you, Judy. That's just the way it is, but it's when we can decide that other people's perception of us is not our business.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
God's perception of me is all I care about. Because here's the thing, I'm not going to walk through your front door to get to heaven. I'm not going to go through your front yard on the way to heaven. So I'm not worried about it. And what does Brene Brown say? She says, until you've played in my arena, your criticism means nothing to me.
Yeah. And I want to land on that for a second, because I just finished up a beach retreat. It's a social media and marketing beach retreat.
Why didn't I know about this?
How could you not? You missed it on social, but so it was so good. And one of the many things that I said to the ladies, I have a whole different perspective and approach to social media than most business coaches and strategists out there. Yeah. But what I said is, ladies, there is freedom in not caring about what other people say. And of course I care about my clients, and I care about those that are kind of my target audience, but I don't care about the judgment of others, because as you just said, it doesn't really matter. I've got to go with what I know my mission is before the Lord Jesus Christ. And so, ladies, listen, if you have heard a voice from the Lord that I want you to start this business, I want you to pursue these God-given gifts, then that's your mission. And you can't get distracted. You've got to almost put the blinders on with what anybody else is saying. Because let me tell you something. Once you start making an impact, the enemy is going to throw monkey wrenches at you. He is going to try to get you off of your mission. And that's why, as Cherie just said, it's so true. And for those of you, if you're new in the business, you might say, this doesn't sound right. I'm supposed to be loving and caring. Yes, but never, ever take your eyes off the Lord Jesus Christ. You're on mission. So that is a really important lesson. So I appreciate it.
Right. Well, and Christian warriors, right? That's why they call us Christian warriors. Are not meek individuals, right? They don't walk around with their heads hung down. Warriors stand up straight and they put on their protection armor. And we have to go out into battle many of the times against the enemy, and the enemy comes in all different forms. Yeah. So we have to be ready at all times. That's not a meek person. That's not what a warrior is.
Love it. Love it. I really appreciate that. Now, if anyone listening, and I know many will, are familiar with your podcast, they know you're a big darn deal because of the popularity. It's just, like you said, it's skyrocketed. So what I want to also land on here is someone might look you up on Instagram, Real Girl Talk Podcast. And Cherie, she's like a big deal. I don't know how to approach her, not just to pitch, but just to kind of DM. She's too big to DM. And what I love is that, you're a person. And so I would love you to just speak to that for just a moment, for people to really, I guess, get more brave to reach out to influencers, even if you wonder whether or not they'll actually answer.
You know what? I'm so glad that you asked that question, because I'm going to tell you a little story. It's really funny because you never discount a DM. I mean, that should be on a shirt. # don't discount a DM, because I had a guest on my show. For those of you that watched the show Dirty John, I mean, if you haven't watched Dirty John, I'm going to tell you right now, go to Netflix, wherever it is, Prime. I don't know what it's on right now, but for a while it was on Bravo when it first came out. Dirty John. It's a true story about this lady that was dating online and all this. Great show. Okay. Scary, a little scary, but it was true story. Well, she had 2 daughters, and one of them on the show was Tara. And on the show, of course, they're actresses on the show that's telling the story, but the real Tara was actually a guest on my show. And so she comes on, and, she's a big deal in LA for obvious reasons. And, she's been on Good Morning America and everywhere. So she came onto my show through an agent that had contacted me. And after our show aired, I got a DM message from someone I didn't know. Okay. So I get a DM message from this girl that she says, "Hey, I have someone that I know. Tara Newell was on your show. I'd love to come and be a guest on your show." And, like I said, at that point I was kind of getting, pitched quite a bit. And I was like, here I'm getting this DM or whatever. And I look at them and I'm like, I was like, wow, this girl was on Bravo TV. She's a TV personality. Her Instagram is verified. She has 100,000+, and she's DMing me to be on my show. And I was going to blow it off because it was a DM. I was like, she didn't send me an official email. So, I mean, are you kidding me? No, that's ridiculous. So she just sent me a quick little DM. You know what? She's a big deal. And so she sends me this. We ended up connecting. Amazing. She's a celebrity stylist. Her name's Allie Levine. Love her to death. We have each other's cell number, and we text back and forth, and we support each other and what we do. And she had me on her show, as well as, she was on my show. And never discount a DM. I'm just telling you. But I'm going to tell you one thing that I love about you, and you keep me on my toes with it, is a lot of times you will send me a DM by voicemail. And so you will mic me a DM, which is so much faster than trying to type it, right?
For me, for sure.
Well, when you do that to me, it's such like, I hear your voice. And I understand the tone because I hear you, it reminds me of you because I hear you, so I'm not only I'm able to, you're reaching out to me, which is one thing, that's one form of connection, but I'm actually hearing you. So audibly I'm hearing you. So that's 2 forms. And I think it's great because you keep me on my toes to remember that I need to be doing that as well, which I do kind of hit or miss do that. But when somebody sends me a voice message, or I'll tell you what I've gotten is video.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've gotten a video from people that just say, "Hey, my name is so-and-so. I loved your show today. If you're ever looking for a guest that does, XYZ, I'd love to, or if you could just let me know what your email is, the best email to contact. Well, if you're going to go through the trouble of sending me a video, I'm sending you my email and I'm going to say, sure, send it over and tell them you reached out to me on, social media. Yeah. And you're probably going to move to the top of the list because of the effort that you made to do that. So I think that's a big deal. And I'll tell you another thing, like when you're wanting to be a guest on someone's show, I think it's super important that you have some type of sketched out pitch that is personable. When somebody just sends me something and I look down and their name is signed and it has a couple of links. Okay. You're wanting me to work to find out who you are. Tell me who you are. Like I'll just give you an example of an agent that will send me a pitch, right? So if an agent sends me a pitch, they'll say, I'd love to introduce you to, I don't know, Martha White. And that Martha White actually is a link. So her name is linked. If she's a podcaster, she's a podcast host of blank, it's linked within the email. So I'm reading the story, but I can also click on the links if I want to see more. Mm-hmm. Don't send someone a pitch about being on their show, sign your name, and then just put your website link, because I'm not going to research all of that. Right. I want to hear the story, attach your media sheet. And if you don't have a media sheet, go to canva.com, make one up. It's completely free. It'll look great. Okay. Don't second guess yourself. Send your media sheet, pitch them really good in the email, and make sure your links are in the email so that if they have an assistant or if they're looking themselves, they can quickly read your story. And when they find that story intriguing, then they can click several links within the body, not just a website link where they have to go searching on your website to what you're doing. So I hope that's helpful when it comes to
that is wonderful. Something. Yeah, that is wonderful, because I was going to ask you that, like a couple of quick tips. So that is really a good one. So I've heard a couple of different approaches to pitches. And so I'm just curious, and I know I get pitches pretty much every day anymore now. And I'm just curious, what draws your attention? Is it, for me, when they send a video, I'm with you. And even if it's by email, wherever it is, I'm watching it. And that does jump to the top of the heap if that video is good. It does. And for me, I am a little bit more open as to the subject, the story. But I know for certain podcasts, and maybe yours, you're looking for something specific or something different. So any other tips, even as far as the story that you're pitching or the angle, what advice would you have?
The things that jump out to me first, when somebody sends me something, really tell me your titles right in that first sentence. I don't want to read 3 sentences and she's an author, and read 2 sentences. And she has a podcast. You may want to start it off, just say, let me introduce myself, or, hire a college student, or have an intern or somebody send just a slew of pitches to podcasts that you really are interested in. Let it come from somebody that works for you on your team, So at the beginning I would pitch myself. And then I just got to where I wasn't going to do it anymore. Mainly it was a time thing. But I think that when something comes from a podcast agent, and this could be, just hiring your high schooler in there to help you, and it comes from them, it comes from somebody that's on your team to pitch you, say who you are in the first sentence. Cherie Rickard is an author, speaker, adversity recovery specialist, podcast host, whatever it is. And every single thing under author, I'm going to have a link where it says author to my book, where it says podcast host, Real Girl Talk. I'm going to have a link to my show. Then tell the story. Then you can say, Cherie knows pain. She's gone through blah, 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 blah. Then you can kind of tell a quick little story. But I want to know really quick who you are. Now, if you're a coach, if you're a business coach, health coach, whatever, okay, I'm just going to tell you right now, with love, you guys have got to change that up. I get, because now it's to the point where I don't need to have another business coach. Tell me what the business is. Maybe you're coaching in I don't know, do it yourself things. You're teaching people how to make money online. Maybe you're coaching people. It's all business coaching, but get specific. So if you're a high-end coach and you're teaching high-end entrepreneurs, say that. Because the last thing I need is 50 business coaches on my podcast. However, 50 business coaches that teach 50 different businesses is a whole nother story. So be very specific. Don't just tell me you're a coach of something. Get very specific with me, because odds are I haven't had you on my show, and that's going to stick out. And that's kind of a hint. Like, I don't need a pitch right now for a business coach unless you tell me specifically what you do, because I've had a lot of business coaches.
I've been on your show and I so appreciate that. But see, that's what I tell my clients all the time, Cherie. So this will apply whether you're looking to, pitch a podcast or just get out there in a big way. Ladies, you have got to not be afraid to go all in on who God made you to be. Who are you?
Right.
What is your special something? Nobody's going to do what you do the way you do it. But what is your bent? What is your approach? So I really want the ladies that are listening to think about that. I mean, I don't know about you, Cherie, but most women I meet, we're multi-passionate. We can do many, many things well, but what is that one thing that makes your heart sing, that if you really, number one, you're great at it. And number two, that if you could do it forever, it would be like you're not even working. So ladies, really, Cherie mentioned this a couple times. Don't overthink it. And because mindset.
Just get it. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I would recommend that if you send a pitch to someone about being on their show, follow it up with maybe a voice recording or a video. And just say, hey, how are you? I'm Cherie, podcast host, Real Girl Talk. I'd love to be on your show. Just sent you an email. I'd love for you to be on my show. Let's connect. Follow up. Don't be discouraged if you don't get a reply right away, because I will tell you, sometimes we'll go back 2 months and look at pitches, because we just haven't had the opportunity to answer every single person. Now, if you tell me, I wanted to follow up again, and you send that email and you tell me you're following up again, I'm going to feel more led that, hey, at least let them know that they're in the queue, or let them know that we're not recording right now, or whatever. So don't get discouraged if you don't get a reply. Don't be afraid to follow up 3 and 4 times. After the third or fourth time you follow up, if you don't hear back, set it aside for a little bit, literally 4 to 6 weeks, set it aside, and then maybe come back. It's not that they're not interested in you. They may just have a slew of business coaches right now. They may have somebody, a relationships expert times 15 in the queue right now. And they just can't take another person. There are, what did they say right now? How many? 1 million plus podcasts that they have right now?
They're blowing up
listen,
all over.
If first you don't succeed, try again. I have just been fortunate enough to really kind of figure it out and not take it so personally when I don't hear back. I mean, there's been people that I've tried to get on my show that I've never heard back from, but yet I've got people on my show that are 10 times at a higher level of the person that I tried to get. And those people will come on my show, but then these people I don't even hear from. And this is the way I look at it. It's a missed opportunity. They missed an opportunity to reach a large audience of women. I'm more valuable, and you're only as valuable as you say you are, right? So if I'm telling you I'm valuable, it's because I said I am. Yeah. And if you don't want to come on the show, or you don't have to come on the show, hey, I respect that. There are other people that will come on the show, and you have to remember not to take things so personally. Don't get offended. It's not personal. It's really not. It just may not be the right time, or it may not be the right person or the right show for you.
That's really good. Well, one thing that on this say, I didn't know we were going to dive so deep in podcasts, but I know that we're here for a reason. So God wanted us to do this. So one more point on that. You mentioned earlier that, you have quite a few sponsors now for your podcast. And so monetization of podcast is something that many people would love to do, but don't know the first thing. So how do you get started down that road to feel like you're ready, which will never feel like you're totally ready, but what has to happen before you should reach out and try to get sponsors?
I don't think that there's anything that really should happen. I reached out when I had 50 listeners.
Okay.
Because I thought my show was valuable, therefore it is, and here's the thing, what I did, and I recommend doing first, because in order to monetize your podcast, as far as getting sponsors, you have to have at least 5,000 episodes, according to Lipscomb and some of these others. And now AdvertiseCast, who is my agent, I use AdvertiseCast. They took me on as a client, and basically they go out and get the sponsors for me. The thing is, they only get paid if I get paid. So what's great about AdvertiseCast, and again, you will have to have, I'm not sure what their limit is. You'll have to go and look. I'm not really sure, because I think it's changed now that they've partnered with Lipscomb. Now they're partners. And I was actually with them before they were partners, but there is a minimum and you have to prove that. So you have to prove.
And you said listeners, 5,000 listeners.
Downloads.
You mean, okay, that's what I thought. Downloads.
Sorry, downloads. Yes, thank you for clarifying. So it's downloads per episode, and you have to prove that. You can't just say you have this many. You have to actually pull the data and you have to send it to them. But if you don't have those downloads, it's okay. What you need to do is go to all these podcasts that you like people that are kind of in your genre and in your arena, see who's advertising on their podcast. Make a note of that. Those companies all have marketing people and marketing departments, and have your pitch ready and actually pitch the ability for them to do an ad on your show personally. Reach out to them personally. Now, you may get a feedback that says, hey, we only go through programmed advertising, companies, they do what, that's fine. But some people won't. Some people can also speak to people that are in your community. You can talk to different boutiques and offer them a great deal and just say, hey, I'll start off really cheap, just say for $50, I'll do 2, 60-minute slots. You're going to have pre-roll, mid-roll, and post-roll. Most companies like to do a mid-roll. They like to do a minute in the middle of your show. But you can offer all 3. And what if you got all 3? That's 3 ad spots on a show. I never recommend having more than that, because if you listen to some of these shows, it's about 50% commercials, and it's gotten way out of hand. And that's not the message that I want to get across. Right. So I would never recommend more than 3. I would do a pre, a mid, and a post. I typically just do a mid-roll, but I'm not saying that I won't stay there. But reach out to some of these smaller places, reach out to real estate companies. Do a 60-minute ad spot for, Remax or Crylike or, whoever, some of these big realtor companies, and see if you can't get some ad spots that way. You could always start from there.
And I'm sorry, you said 60-minute, you mean 60 second?
60 seconds.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Seconds.
I just wanted to make sure, because I'm like, wow, that would be a feature for them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm talking in circles.
No, you're good. I'm just.
Well, it's funny that you said that, because I actually had my sponsoring agent, AdvertiseCast, reached out to me, and there was a company, and I don't think I'm at liberty to say, but there was a very well-known company that wanted to have someone on my show, and they were going to pay me very good money to have somebody on my show for 45 minutes and buy 6 ad spots for, a certain amount of money. And of course, just like me, a lot of other people that AdvertiseCast pitched this to, I accepted, but I didn't hear back, which means they haven't done it yet, or they selected another show. That happens quite a bit. So your agent that works for you, that does your advertising, doesn't necessarily mean they just work for you. They work for hundreds, if not thousands, of different podcasts, and they will send out a blanket pitch. Would you be interested in Lane's Jewelers? Sure. Would you be interested in doing a, anti-itch scrotum ad? No.
That's pretty specific stuff there. That's good.
Oh no, it's specific. I mean, you'll get different ads for different things, and you either select yes or no. Well, they go out to a lot of different podcasters, and then those companies, of those that said yes, actually look and select which show they want to advertise on. That's how it works.
This is so good. All right. I can't believe how the hour is going quickly, but I do want to talk about this. Real Girl Talk podcast is more than a podcast. I mean, Real Girl Talk, it's a movement. And so I think that businesses today, I know obviously this podcast, She is Extraordinary, is part of my movement, part of my mission. But what do you think is the secret to creating something that's so compelling and popular in this way of a movement, not just your brand per se, but something that people can really rally behind?
I mean, if you're creating a movement, and yes, Real Girl Talk is, I would say it's a movement, because my listeners, I call my Real Girl Talk community. Every year before COVID tried to sneak in and try to ruin our lives, I had a live workshop in January. And what we did in our workshop was part of that. The girls all get together, they buy tickets, it sells out, and we do our vision boards for that year. And it's awesome. We have champagne, we do the mimosas and the muffins and the whole bit. And I do a whole talk on vision and where the vision comes from in the Bible. And I talk about how God talks about creating a vision and where to find that. And we do create our visions for the year. So that's all part of the movement, just like the journal that I came out with, Create Your Life, 30-day devotional and lifestyle. It's all part of the Real Girl Talk, because I talk about not just prayer and go through 30 days of prayer in that, but I also talk about the vision. So creating a movement really is just about your brand. What are you trying to create around your brand? People know that I am just, sometimes things just fall out of my mouth and maybe I regret them later, but most of the time I don't. I'll just be honest with you, Judy. Here's the thing. I believe that everything I say is real, and everything that I want to do, I have a purpose behind it. That's my brand, right? I'm purpose driven. I want to bring hope to women that don't have hope. I am a hope advocate. I'm certified in adversity, recovery, and grief. I come from 25 years of healthcare. So if you look at all of the different avenues that I have, even though you say, oh, she's a podcaster, she's an author, she's a speaker, when you put it all together, it's really just a movement of caring for other people. I've been caring for them since the day I gave birth to my daughter when I was 21 years old, and then from there being a nurse and taking care of strangers. And then now I'm taking care of women that have lost children and lost their parents and lost friends and siblings. So it's all part of my Real Girl Talk and what's actually happening to us in our lives and how we can be stronger in our lives. But we cannot forget that what makes us who we are is God. Amen. And sometimes we forget that. And I'll tell you, that's one thing that attracted me to you as the business coach that I get pitched about. Not only did we meet in a unique way, but the thing that caught my eye about you is you had something in your messaging that alluded to not just being a business coach, but you do it with your spiritual faith, with your faith that you have. I had not been pitched in that way. So I thought, well, here's a business coach that is faith-based. Heck yeah, she's going to be on my show. You set yourself apart when you told me you were a business coach and what you stand behind. So She is Extraordinary to me. This movement that you're creating is basically encompassing your whole brand and what you are. And part of that is being faith-based and driven in what you do. Plus, I mean, you have a very strong professional background, right? So that helps a lot too. We have skills, we have talents, we just don't use them.
Wow. I'm going to land on that for a second, because see, that is a couple of months ago, God gave me even more clarity on what She is Extraordinary is all about and what my bent is in the way of business building. And it's truly as simple as surrendering to the Lord and asking Him, who am I? Who did you make me to be? And simply surrendering and saying, okay, Lord, you say I'm bold. It's kind of like that Lauren Daigle song. You say I'm bold. I don't feel it, but I'm going to be who you say I am, even if I don't feel ready. Right. And so She is Extraordinary. I contemplated not calling my podcast that. Okay. You know why?
I love it.
Well, what woman would call herself extraordinary? I know I wouldn't. I don't know if you would, but I would look, there's not a woman on the earth that I wouldn't call extraordinary for one reason or another. And so She is Extraordinary, and the she ain't me. It's every woman that I meet. And so,
right.
But it's interesting. That name. It's like women are like, wait, extraordinary. I'm not extraordinary. Under God, I'm supposed to be humble and I'm supposed to be meek. But there's a misunderstanding on what that really means, because I know that God gave me a big mouth. I love the fact that you kind of alluded to the fact that, you know, you can work a little bit more on your filter. I don't see that, but I certainly see it in me. Like, I just speak.
I have to hold back.
Yeah, I totally do. I've got to always be thinking, what am I saying? But yeah, so I love that. So ladies listening, be bold. Be all in on who God made you to be, because you know that where he calls you, he promised to equip you. So there's no need to worry. Ooh, do I have enough experience? Do I have enough of this or that? The answer is an emphatic yes. You sure do. Right.
Right.
So,
right.
All right. Well, let me, I could talk to you for another hour and a half probably, but unfortunately we have to wrap this up. Cherie, thank you so much. But I have this. Well, you are you've been a joy and a blessing. And
good.
I didn't know we were going to focus on the podcast thing, but I think it's timely because there are a lot of podcasts coming out, but not as many successful ones, because they're kind of dabbling in it. So if you are listening and you're thinking about launching a podcast, or you already have one, be going back to God and say, Lord, what is my message? Because if you're vanilla, you're going to struggle. Nobody wants to listen to boring stuff. So
right. So no, you're absolutely right. And even if you don't want.
Uh-oh, I can't hear you. All of a sudden you went mute. Darn it. Oh, now I hear you say something.
That's strange.
Now I got you. You went dead after you started answering that question. So sorry to interrupt, but
I had a message that just popped up. It says internet unstable, but it came back, I guess. That's so strange. We're not in storms right now.
Dead.
But what I was saying was, you know, even if you are not interested in starting a podcast, but you want to be on a podcast because you have a business, listen, this is where you can shine. You know, if you're a business owner, you're trying to be in business for whatever reason, you're trying to start a movement, create a brand, the best way to get your message out is to be on a podcast, because you're going to reach thousands and thousands of people. Think about if you're invited to be a speaker in a room. Okay. And there's 100 people. There's only 100 people in the room. Maybe there's only 100 downloads on the podcast that you're talking on. Where else could you sit at home or in your office and talk for 30 minutes and reach 100 people? Yeah. It's like having a speaking event for free, right? Mm-hmm. So you should be on as many podcasts that, of course, you connect with, as many podcasts as you possibly could. I say, I challenge you in pitching 50 podcasts, you'll land 10. You'll land at least 10. Pitch 50 next week and be a guest on 10. And if those 10 had 200 listeners or even 100 listeners, that's like being in a room with thousands of people getting your message out.
Yeah, I love that. It starts as small as it is, and it just balloons from there. So I really appreciate that. All right. Well, this is called the She is Extraordinary podcast. So I would love for you, Cherie, to identify an extraordinary woman in your life and tell my listeners what makes her extraordinary.
Wow, there's so many extraordinary women in my life. So, you know, I think I'm going to have to say, because Mother's Day is right around the corner, I'm going to have to say that my mother is extraordinary. And what makes her extraordinary is that she's 79, she'll be 80 years old, and she's just as fast paced as I am. It's incredible. Oh, wow. If I tell her I have a speaking event in Indianapolis, she'll pack her bag and say, when are we leaving? You know, she's so extraordinary because she birthed and raised 3 children, my brother, my sister, and myself. My brother, bless his heart, had so many challenges in his life, and she just stays steadfast and strong. And she's his mother, even at 57, no matter what all he's been through. And then even with my sister and I, we are so close, but we're so opposite. She keeps us grounded grounded. She keeps everyone grounded. And this is the same woman that sat by my dad's bedside for over a year, as he was dying from his stroke. And she buried him and picked herself up after 57 years they were married. And she's cleaning her house, and she's still going, and she's still working.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Because she works part-time, and she'll be bored. She says, I'll be bored to death. So she still works part-time, and she loves every minute of it. She truly is extraordinary.
Wow.
She really is.
Super. That's super. I can't tell you the percentage of women who name their mother. And when I hear these stories, it's just really neat. My mother has passed. She was an extraordinary woman. She is, because she still exists, just in heaven, not here. Right. My mother-in-law just had her 86th birthday. And she's the one that says, hey, Judy, I just keep on going. I keep on moving through the pain and the stiffness. She's so positive. I mean, it's just amazing. And what That's awesome. Beautiful way of biblical wisdom from these older women imparting to us. And what I'm realizing, Cherie, I don't know if you think this way. I think you're a little bit younger than me, but I feel like, I'm becoming that wise, should be wise older woman who is now passing it on to the next generation. So,
right. I agree. Me too. Yeah. Well, I'm
Cherie,
there.
Thank you. You are truly an extraordinary woman. And I've so enjoyed this talk.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much, Judy. I really do.
Awesome. Well, before we go, please tell the ladies, where is the best place for them to find you? How can they connect?
Well, if you're on Instagram, I would be honored if you would follow me on Instagram. It's Real Girl Talk Podcast. You can also go to my website, realgirltalkpodcast.com, and you can find everything there, from the books, any type of speaking events, anything that we have going on. My husband and I are actually creating a CBD company for those of you that take CBD and understand what that's all about. And that will launch next month. So if you go to realgirltalkpodcast.com, I will have links there when it does. And make sure you subscribe, because you'll get all the news. I send out newsletters every single month.
Well, thank you again, Cherie. Ladies, you need to listen to Real Girl Talk Podcast, because I have no doubt you're going to love it. And I'm sure you've fallen in love with Cherie. You'll only fall more in love as you listen. So Cherie, mwah, I love you, sister.
Mwah. Thank you.
All right, ladies, thank you for listening. And if you could take a moment and leave a rating and a review, we would really appreciate it, because your feedback really matters. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.